So I'm going to put you up on some free spiritual game that a lot of spiritualists will absolutely charge you for. You ready? Come on, let's get into this. Reason some people, I said some operative word there, have trouble tapping into their spiritual gifts is because they potentially have suppressed their spiritual gifts as a child. The place in your brain where spiritual occurrences take place is actually the place in your brain where you house fear. Now, when I talk about brain, I'm speaking on your medical brain, not your mind. Your mind is your essence, okay? That is who you are. This is where your main spirit guide lives, for those of you who don't know. So when you are a child and you see something that's frightening, or even as an adult, when you see something that's frightening, that same part of your medical brain that houses your fear and where spiritual occurrences take place gets triggered, and then you don't want to see the scary thing anymore, so you suppress it and you push it back. You know those nights where you were forced to go to sleep but you weren't remotely tired at all, but as good parents do, they say, I'm gonna whoop your ass if you don't go to bed. You know you got school in the morning, so you have to turn off the lights, you have to turn off the TV, and you lay there in the darkness. Sometimes during this process, we'll either lay there with our eyes open or we'll close our eyes. Sometimes while our eyes are closed or our eyelids are closed and our mind is awake, we can stare into the abyss of the darkness that is our eyelids. And then when you focus really hard, you start seeing shapes. You start seeing a little bit of flashes of color. And then you sit there and wonder and say, did I see what I just think I saw? Was that a pair of eyes? Was that a face I saw? And then all of a sudden, that eye opens or that face turns and looks at you. Yeah, you saw what you think you saw. And then you run scared, freaked out, flying out the room. Mom, there's something. You saw what you saw when you closed your eyes. Or even if you are privileged enough to see things in your room while it was dark, you saw what you saw. It's giving very much, are you afraid of the dark? So that part of our medical brain that houses the fear, the same part of the medical brain where that spiritual experience occurs, gets triggered and you suppress it. And guess what? When you suppress it because you don't want to see the scary, frightening thing anymore, you don't see it anymore. So let me tell you a little something about what these spirits or souls actually look like. Because when you believe Hollywood all your life and you see those kind of monsters they come up with where really they're more resembling of zombies because you see them in their human form and they're decaying, they look like monsters. But we really need to redefine what an actual monster is. Because when we are outside of this meat suit, we have multiple eyes. You could be have human, have animal, a whole bunch of wings, a bunch of hair, a bunch of eyes, a bunch of tested eyes, but a bunch of teeth, all of the things. So when we look at that biblical text and we see that these angels of light are described with having multiple heads, animal parts, that's for a reason. So when you do see a spirit, because it's going to frighten you, it looks like what we identify as a monster, because we have been told all our lives or been made to believe that the human form is the only form. They have to show up in a human-like form. So we aren't afraid of the monsters. Even if it's a loved one, they're going to show up in the form that you most remember them as, because otherwise, if they show up as their true, authentic self, you're going to be afraid of them. Again, triggering that medical part of the brain where the same spiritual occurrences take place that frightens you, triggers that fear. You're afraid, you suppress it. The Gnostic text actually had a couple things correct. One is knowledge is going to save us. And two, we live in an alien world. The best way I can explain it with all of my spiritual knowledge, being the two-headed person that I am, I like to describe it as the upside down. We have been taught to think that everything out of this existence is fake, but in reality, this is the illusion. We are the actual aliens. We look totally different outside of these meat suits.